This is the No Strings Podcast with Rel Simon.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
What's up, y'all? Welcome back once again for another episode of the No Strings Podcast with Rel Simon. This is episode 61, titled Playoffs, Round 2. I was going to do a different episode, but I had to definitely get this one out the way with so much news. If you remember a few episodes back, I did layoffs, just a spin on words, talking about layoffs. That episode was from a company perspective, giving updates about mass layoffs from certain companies. This episode is on the different end of the spectrum. All of the governmental chaos and everything impacted by the current administration, Doge, Musk, Trump, along with some additional thoughts. I'm going to react to some articles, react to some TikTok videos. Before I do that, though, I got three quick hits. With this being recorded on March 1st, yesterday was the economic blackout. If you participated or you didn't participate, it is what it is. Being able to buy from local businesses, cut spending, stop buying from big box retailers, go down to your essential needs. Hopefully it sent a message. I haven't seen anything on X or the news about the impact of that. But at the same time, if you go back to basics, it's important. Let's make that a habit to cut back. Not just in protest, but as a self-constructed habit. Spend less than you make, save and invest what you can. Second piece, which also happened on that same day yesterday, was the whole Zelensky and Trump mess, the shouting match, the clown show. So many words said about that. I definitely don't get into politics, but there'll be political articles or messages read throughout this entire podcast episode. I don't get into it, but it is important because politics, the economy, it definitely shapes finances. It shapes your financial future, my financial future, in a sense. But just the back and forth, the shouting match is just, clown show work yesterday. And then even this morning, went to go get a haircut, and I called for a Lyft so I can get there on time. And the car that the Lyft driver drove was a blue Tesla Model 3. I just thought that was so apropos for things, right? Whatever. I never even sat in a Tesla. I mean, 12-minute ride. It was what it was. Can't complain too much. I just thought it was just the timing of everything, right? The way things kind of weave itself. Speaking of timing, after this podcast, I don't know what episode I'm going to do next. I know the aviation scene and airports is pretty crazy. There's a lot of fear given the multiple incidents and casualties that have happened. There may be an episode or two down the line. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be an interesting few episodes. We're going to see what's going to happen along this next month, this next year. So, all right, enough rambling. Let's get into what I want to get into in order. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Podcast is available on all platforms, brought to you by Spotify. So if you don't know, Doge, DOGE, is the Department of Government Efficiency, which was established by the Trump administration as soon as he took office, which is led and spearheaded by the owner of Tesla, Elon Musk. What they seek to do is to reduce federal spending by cutting jobs, slashing grant programs, primarily in the governmental sector. Not saying they're cutting jobs at Target, or not saying they're cutting jobs at Starbucks, which Starbucks does plan. This past week, they just announced that they're going to lay off 1,000 people in their corporate sector of their entire business. So not the storefronts, baristas, managers, things like that, but a lot of people in the corporate sector. And Starbucks is going to revamp their menu, try to streamline, eliminate some redundant menu items and things like that. So yet again, another instance of a business layoff, not from a governmental perspective, but I wanted to pop that out there for a second. But anyway, let me get to the first layoff, because there's a lot of different companies, or not companies, or governmental organizations that I'm going to talk about. So we start off with the National Park Service from USA Today, published February 22nd. National parks across the country are cutting hours, canceling cave tours, closing visitor centers, and warning of other cutbacks following Trump's administration cuts to the federal workforce. Excuse me. Park advocates and fired employees have been predicting those impacts for weeks, but a string of social media posts from park managers made after the February 14th cuts appear to be the first formal acknowledgments. This, in terms of the National Park Service, responsible for Yosemite, for example, could you consider the Grand Canyon within that purview? But all these grand national parks, there are people that work on the grounds. And I was watching an interview the other day with one guy who was being impacted by the layoffs. He performs critical roles, life-saving techniques and CPR techniques, where he mentioned, in essence, you can call 911, but it may take a while to get the EMTs to get through a forest, a river lake, or something like that. You can't just drive something through a tiny path that's not wide enough for a vehicle. And it's within those crucial moments where some Park Service rangers can perform those critical services until the EMTs arrive. And those minutes are so crucial towards someone's life and someone's death. Trump announced the cuts last Friday in what's been dubbed the Valentine's Day Massacre. So this occurred on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Roughly 1,000 National Park Service employees were laid off in that round. Let's go next to the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. This is an article from The Hill, posted on February 24th. Duffy on cuts at FAA, quote, "We kept all the critical safety positions." Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy looks on in the James Brady press briefing room at the White House on January 30th, 2025. It's just a stock photo. You know how they do with articles, but this is from the reading from the article now. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on Monday defended workforce cuts at the FAA, saying that people in critical safety positions were kept and that only the people dismissed were those who had been working there for less than a year. He says, quote, "At FAA, we cut 352 people out of 46,000 people. That's 0.8% of the workforce. These were probationary workers. They were employed for less than a year at the Department of Transportation," Duffy said in an interview with Fox News' Bill Hemmer on America's Newsroom. Yet another example, and we'll see in some examples in a second. Actually, I'll jump into it now. He mentioned probationary employees. That's also similar to the IRS, where they laid off near 7,000 employees, probationary workers. A lot of people caught afoul of that because this is in the midst of tax season. Tax season isn't over until mid-April. It concludes in mid-April. But you see these sort of things where these probationary employees only employed for 6 months, employed for less than a year, 2 years, whatever the policy is. FAA, IRS, even Department of Justice. I heard, one of my coworkers had mentioned someone, a relative of theirs, got laid off from there. I believe she said it was a probationary employee, but that seems to be the pattern as well, where the fat is being trimmed from the bottom. If you go to Forbes.com article posted February 27th, here's where Trump's government layoffs are targeted as judge blocks mass firings of probationary employees. A federal judge ruled Thursday that Trump's administration mass firing of probationary government workers was probably illegal, according to multiple outlets, ordering the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, to rescind directives that triggered the layoffs after the Trump administration recently indicated the largest round of layoffs to several federal agencies yet is forthcoming. NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, more than 800 employees were told Thursday they were being laid off. USAID, thousands of employees were reportedly given 15-minute windows Thursday and Friday to clear their office spaces as the Trump administration sought to virtually shut down the agency, firing or placing only 5,600 workers and freezing foreign assistance from USAID. A directive the Supreme Court is allowed to temporarily continue while it assesses the issue. IRS, just mentioned IRS, began layoffs of about 7,000 workers in mid-February. Even Social Security, SSA, Social Security Administration, the administration has been instructed to cut its workforce in half. Labor Department, the agency plans to reduce staffing in an office that handles equal employment opportunity laws by 90%, the Washington Post reported. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Trump told reporters during his first cabinet meeting that EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has expressed a desire to cut 65% of the EPA's 18,000 some employees as the Trump administration seeks to roll back Biden-era environmental protections. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. A spokesperson confirmed the agency, which has opened safety investigations into Musk's Tesla company, let off 4% of its staff in a statement that said the agency grew by 30% during Biden's administration. FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. Remember FEMA, Hurricane Katrina, and all these disasters, right? The wildfire disasters, everything that happens, hurricanes. They don't list a number here, or an exact number. But there could be some down in FEMA. TSA, more than 240 employees were fired in February due to performance and conduct issues during their probationary period. DOD, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of Education, Department of Veterans Affairs, Small Business Administration, OPM, Office of Personnel Management. And so a lot of FAA, 400 FAA were terminated in mid-February, just weeks after the fatal collision over the Potomac River that killed 67 people. So a lot of these are governmental-wide organizations that deal with transportation, health, public safety, aviation, protection of the forest, protection for not only veterans' rights, but only senior citizens when we talk about Social Security, Department of Defense. The little things like military operations, Federal Emergency Management Agency, which deals with crisis from natural disasters, crisis from terrorist attacks. Labor Department, things about hiring, IRS, which is regard to income tax. NOAA, which has ties within not only the global atmospheric roles of climate change, sea levels, but also anything such as when you turn on the news and you see your local newsman or newswoman, or weatherman or weatherwoman, meteorologist. So there's just a large swath of things happening. And again, a lot of these cuts are with probationary employees where they haven't been on tenure for that long enough or what have you. I even found out the other day that we know that Trump was talking about a buyout, to offer federal workers a buyout. And apparently 75,000, give or take, have taken that offer to buyout. Now, some of these people may have found another job or looking behind the weeds and found another space, while others may have been close to retirement or really, really about to retire or about a year away and just decided to get out of the mess. But it's where the poking and prodding kind of gets annoying, right? Because you all heard about the Elon Musk email, and this article is from time.com. Article published on February 23rd, where Elon Musk caused alarm among federal employees and drew ire over an email sent on Saturday requesting that employees summarize their work for the week and warning on social media that a failure to do so would be taken as a resignation. The email, which boasts the subject line, "What did you do last week?" was sent from OPM to workers in various government departments. FDA, Veterans Affairs, FBI, State Department, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullets to what you accomplished this week and CC your manager. That caused a lot of backlash. A lot of people snarkily responded saying, I did this, I did that, I ate a sandwich. Or some people were actually really detailed, depending on their job. I did a probationary role. I had to visit a jail. I had to do this. I had to do that. Some people were sort of semi-serious in that, poking and prodding, but obviously there was just a lot of backlash with this sort of assessment, or almost given like a status report from such a high level, where this guy is co-aligned with the administration, but then with the OPM in essence sending out this email, now that's something you'd see from your supervisor or your director or your boss. That's something that you could have to provide, right? Or else you could be written up in your office in this space. But to have this sort of communication on a grand scale, to me, it's a little baffling. And then from FedScoop.com, House Democrats urge agency heads to refute OPM email Musk message. The lawmaker said in the letter that agency heads should immediately tell staffers not to respond to OPM's ill-conceived email stunt asking them what they accomplished last week. So it's a lot. There is a lot on the table. A lot of people have already lost their jobs. I'm going to get into, after the intermission, react to some TikTok videos. But a lot of people have already lost their jobs, been laid off, and looking for an alternative means to an end. It feels disingenuous. It's so sudden. Shout out to Anthony O'Neill. I watched his reaction video the other day, and he said that he understands what they're trying to do, but he does not like the way in which they're trying to do it. And to me, I can see where he's coming from on that, and that you got to find ways between the proposed tax cuts, bills that haven't even reached the floor, the House and the Senate, or haven't been throughout that whole process as we speak right now. You do have a government shutdown that's looming also. But and you want to find ways to, in essence, trim the fat. We know the government is trillions of dollars in debt. They're trying to find ways to save $1 billion here or there. And I think that the method of doing this, could you do internal audits and reviews of certain organizations and say that there's probably too much fat, or too much, they overflew their skis in a certain organization. Again, that's I'll leave that to that specific case specific and specific organization. But to, in essence, I don't want to say like cut the head of the snake, or to sort of flood and overflood and do this mass layoff all at different points, all at the same time, with no true rhyme or reason. It's unjust. You're going to have a lot of people trying to file for unemployment, or a lot of people scrambling right now, literally figuring out what they got to do because they still have bills, credit cards to pay, mortgage to pay, children to feed. So it's just, I don't know. There are people who are pushing back on that, right? If we something put up on my news feed, a news article from AP, federal technology staffers resign rather than help Musk and Doge, published on February 25th, where more than 20 civil service employees resigned Tuesday from billionaire Trump advisor Elon Musk's Doge, saying they were refusing to use their technical expertise to dismantle critical public services. Quote, we swore to serve the American people and uphold our oath to the Constitution across presidential administrations. End quote, the 21 staffers wrote in a joint resignation letter, a copy which was obtained by the Associated Press. Quote, however, it has become clear that we can no longer honor those commitments, end quote. The employees also warned that many of those enlisted by Musk to help him slash the size of the federal government under Trump's administration were political ideologues who did not have the necessary skills or experience for the task ahead of them. The people already being rebellious, not wanting to take part in this calamity, not take part in this chaos. There are people who took the buyout to wash their hands with it. These 20 civil staffers washed their hands with it. We've got people, again, like I mentioned, with these layoffs. And even though I do want to play on words with the title playoffs, this does feel like and we've seen layoffs for years. This is nothing new. We've seen both in the government sector, companies lay off people all the time, automakers, tech, wherever. But it does seem like in the future, maybe a few months down the line, maybe next year, I may have another podcast episode, playoffs round 3, playoffs round 4, to put the sports terminology. But the thing is, where does it end? What's the resolution? According to that administration, they believe that the resolution, this is the way you have to do it. I don't really feel that way. So I'm gonna take a pause for the cause. When I come back, I'm gonna react to some TikToks. I'm gonna close it up, try to tied up some loose threads or things I may have missed. But this is episode 61, playoffs round 2. Catch you on the other side. Welcome back, y'all. Second half of the podcast, episode 61, titled Playoffs Round 2, a No Strings podcast with Rel Simon. Let's get it, and let's react to some TikTok videos.
I recently lost my job due to the cuts that Trump did within the federal government, right? No worries. We're not tripping over that. You want to know why? Because we have God, which means we have a solid foundation. And our home has been built on the rock. Understand, for anybody out there that's going through hard times, and I know there's a lot of federal employees that got laid off. Remember this, just keep this in mind. God has a plan for you. God has a plan for us all.
I'll pause it right there. Shout out to Tehran. Definitely gave him a follow. And he has a positive mindset. And that's what we all need in this time. History does repeat itself, not only from biblical times, but from the last 400 years, 300 years, 200 years. And being laid off definitely is a setback, but it's also a setup for you to move and achieve towards something greater. It could be a roadblock or a fork in the road. You just hop over that roadblock. You just hurl over it. You choose your path and you keep it moving for sure. It's definitely, you don't want to, nobody wants to be laid off, fired, anything of the sort. You give your heart, sweat, and tears to an organization, your 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, whatever type of schedule that you have. And it is heartbreaking. And granted, some people are divided. Oh, if you voted for that person and you got laid off, you shouldn't have voted for him. What did you expect? I get it. The rhetoric, and that's why I don't get into the politics too much, because it becomes throwing axes and throwing knives and knife fights and whatever else. We heard about the deportations and things like that, but just no one should really be taken out at home in the middle of the night. No one should wake up to an email or come into the office and be told to pack your things. This is your last day. You have 15 minutes to go, or you're on a Zoom call with an HR representative or whatever else. Essentially telling you that you've got to go, that you're gone. Nobody deserves that. And when you get laid off, it delays your financial progress, your societal, your social progress, being able to network and build your resume, things like that. But it delays your, especially if you're in a job, with tenure, you build up so much retirement and you get this momentum. But, you in this economy, you essentially have to keep working. You don't want to work until you're 70. But for some people having been laid off or stop and start jobs, when you get up in age, no matter what happens, like when you got laid off or whatever, right? What's the fastest track to retirement? What's the fastest track to being able to build your network and save money? You need an income. You need an income from working. I've even seen different channels where it's like, if you do get laid off, obviously, of course, make sure you have an emergency fund. You got to think beforehand. Definitely read the news, see what's going on, emails, newsletters. Make sure you have an emergency fund for sure. Also, at the same time, side hustle. Is TikTok a side hustle? Is DoorDash a side hustle? Do you have a business? There's a lot of creators lately that are advocating for starting up businesses, so that you're kind of your own boss and you move the narrative. Now, granted, the business isn't for everyone. I don't think I can run my own business, right? I don't know. All right, let me move on to the next one.
I got laid off and I'm terrified. I started 2025 with some really big goals of wanting to pay off all of my credit card debt and also save up for a down payment on a house. And now the unknown is absolutely terrifying for what I can and cannot afford. Even if I make the maximum of unemployment, that's only about $370 a month, and that is not going to cover my expenses, my debt payoff journey, my savings plan. It can't do all three. I'm
going to stop that right there. She continues on saying that she has a decent savings built up, like I mentioned, for emergencies. But and this is similar to my last episode when we're reacting to financial TikToks, where people are open about this. And I've seen a lot of that, where people are reacting like at the moment of, we're doing almost like a replay of when they got laid off. And hopefully she can get back on her feet. Shout out to this is Court. Her name on here says Court, Quart on TikTok with a little sparkly thing. Gave her a follow. And you mentioned, she still got debt. She's got things to pay for, things to look over. And I think the shock can occur whether you're debt free or you're not. Because you can probably be debt free and still have a mortgage. You can be debt free but still have things that you need to, obviously, or you may be paying rent, or you got things, or right, there's still things and missions and goals that you want to achieve. And that's where the shock comes in, where you don't know where the next paycheck is coming from, or you get a certain severance package, which will last for X amount of months, 1 month, 2 months. But it feels like that money is running out, or the time is running out. You're on the clock to find the next move. So, and she posted on her post, she typed it in the description, wish me luck on my application journey. So I do wish you luck that you're able to get back on your feet. And let me go back to the first one, to the first guy, where he had a lot of religious context. And I know some people may not believe in a higher power, some people do, but definitely God is the savior. You definitely want to lean on faith. Be still. Don't make so many emotional and rash decisions. Yes, it's emotional when you get fired or laid off from a job, but you want to have the wherewithal to watch service, go to church, maybe talk to your pastor about it, or talk to your social groups, read the texts, see what's happening in your world, right? When you get laid off, how do you feel at the time? Maybe go to a food bank and volunteer for a little bit. Just get out the house, start working out more. Maybe make content, maybe make a podcast, or maybe you start TikToking and things like that. So you always keep growing and moving. And yes, you need a job to help. It's one of the main ways and primary ways and best ways to really funnel your income. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job, like I mentioned in a podcast a long time ago. But I do empathize with the shock and that sort of fear factor in having to essentially rebuild. Next.
I lost my job on Monday. No, I'm not a federal worker. I work in healthcare and I work from home. This is not a small company. This is a company like United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Don't want to really specifically name my company, but yeah. So some of these healthcare companies depend on government subsidies to keep things going for their members. And my company was one of those. Back in November, right after the election, we had a meeting and they told us like, hey, we might be doing some layoffs and some terminations. However, we don't know yet. We're playing it by ear. Well, the day after the inauguration was the first meeting. If you received that email, you were let go. So people lost their jobs. I'm not sure.
All right, shout out to Alley Cat on TikTok, where the writing was on the wall way before the beginning of the administration for her company. Healthcare is a whole nother beast, but there are ties within the government where if you work in the government, you may be able to, during open season near the fall winter time, you select a health plan and you get deductions of X, Y, and Z. And that is interesting. The other thing I thought about, I forgot where I saw this or read this about, but there is a trickle down effect where a lot of these government agencies, FEMA, IRS, whatever else, they depend on these third party government subsidies, contracts, and let's say healthcare is probably lumped into one of them, retirement factor, or just little things. And when you have layoffs and when you have people that are not part of that particular workforce, some of that money or those pre-tax deductions or those things that are funding these third party and government contracts, that will affect those contractors, which could affect the staff on those contracts as well. Those subsidies, contracts, grant programs, people working in the programs in the nonprofit. So it's a trickle down effect. And we know healthcare, big pharma, like I mentioned, it's its own little beast, but that does not mean that because you work in a certain field that you're exempt from it. I was talking to my cousin Antonio yesterday. Shout out to Antonio, and he mentioned a lot about construction and construction. There's construction projects going on every day, all across the world, across the U.S., even in D.C. Is construction foolproof? I'd say no, but you have construction. You also have people in these sort of government procurement and set government contracts, which may last a certain amount of time. So you kind of know beforehand how long your term of service is for this project, for this for that contract. And yet, for Alley Cat, she mentioned the email right after the inauguration. It's almost, but obviously these things were pre-planned in advance, a few months in advance. And so hopefully you, my lady, can get back on your feet. Next.
Good morning. Come with me to the IRS as a federal employee who is about to get fired. So last night I got the call to bring my equipment in today, even though today is not an in-person day for me. I have been working at the IRS for about 7 months, so that makes me a probationary employee. So I was able to badge into our parking garage. I was a little worried I'm a little bit late because of the ice. It's -8 degrees in Missouri.
All right, I'm going to pause that. She's doing a TikTok save draft where she's going through her entire process of from start to finish the entire day. She, again, saw some of the writing on the wall. Said she was let go, again, a probationary employee. She mentioned the IRS. She could have been one of those 7,000, right? And that day, that hour, that week, or when you feel it's coming, when you see the signs, give me your badge, or you're able to badge in and start. You go on the elevator, you had a meeting, and all this nonsense is going on. Let me try to play a little bit more and see what give her a follow to. Her name is Ash. Let me play a little bit more. Hold on. Let's see how. Hold on.
I can't record while I'm inside, but I have all my belongings packed up. So I'll let you know what happens when I'm done. So it is 2:15. I am just leaving the IRS for the last time in my indefinite future. All right, I'm home in my driveway. I am no longer employed. Do not have my badge anymore.
All right, I'm gonna stop that. It's about halfway done. So you see, start to finish, and I'm looking at this video. She mentioned 2:15 at the beginning of the video. It's in the early morning, could be about 4 or 5, 6 a.m. Getting ready to go to work. Think about everything you do. Get up, whatever time you get up, go right to work. Put in your time. Can't wait to get off 3, 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, whatever. Finish your day. You rinse and repeat. Then you hit the weekend. Or if you're working a shift job, you whatever 5-day schedule that you have. And again, it goes through those motions. For some people, it's a reactionary measure. For her to kind of detail that entire process, I'm sure she may have had some sleepless nights. What am I gonna do? And at the high up, They don't care what you're gonna do. They care about what's best for the entire country, what's best for America, whatever. They don't think about one person, 2 people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 500 people. They're just on probation. You can do this, you can do that. It's rough out here, man. Like last TikTok video before I react and then close up shop.
What the fuck is wrong with some of y'all, man? I've been seeing all the news about all these federal workers that have been getting fired, laid off, people that are on probation, people that aren't even on probation, that, some people resigned that were in higher positions because I'm pretty sure they didn't want to break the law. But I've been looking at like the news on TikTok and on other stuff, on other platforms, looking at videos on here. Some of you people are just terrible people, honestly. I've been...
Shout out to Mac and Key on TikTok with the text on the video. Why are some y'all cheering? Or he probably meant to say why are some of y'all, but why are some of y'all cheering federal workers losing their jobs? Federal workers being fired is not a good thing. The people that are being fired do important work, and also some people did oversight of some private companies, which will now lead to more corruption by companies. Yeah, the taunting, the clowning, the clown show from people who are heartless, the trolling, which we know people love to troll online so much on X, Reddit, IG, whatever else. It's not funny to laugh at someone. You never kick people while they're down. When someone's injured, when someone's hurt, when someone's disabled, when someone gets a question wrong, when someone may not be working to their potential. And again, in this instance, to cheer that, right? It's that superiority complex. It's that ego complex that a lot of us really need to not even push it aside. You need to eliminate that. You need to have some grace, have some empathy for people that are going through this, because you never know. Each household is different. I live in an apartment complex with about, I don't know, maybe it's like 100 people, right? And if you were to do a tour of each and every, let's say the management company, whatever, you walk into, including my unit, you walk into it, there are things on the table, there are things in the fridge, there are collectibles. For me, for example, the way I dress, the way I wear, my sort of thought complex, what I do, that's what makes everyone so unique in their own special way. I'm different from the person across the hall from me, next to me, one floor up, one floor down. Same thing when I go to work. At my present job and even in my part-time job and all my jobs in the past, everybody is different and unique and brings their own sort of talents in a particular way. And you can't cheer someone that lost a job, because whether there was a probationary employee or not, sometimes people have those tangible skills that it's not until you lose them, or lose that group of people, or lose that person, you don't know what you had until once you truly lost it. Right. So those are all the TikTok reactions for that. And just in closing, it's uncertain times that we definitely live in. A lot of people have reacted on social media about the layoffs, YouTube, TikTok. Some people remain anonymous. I've seen some news reports where they don't show their face. You have their voice, maybe whether the voice is garbled or not, or you see a silhouette of a person. Some people just keep in the shadows out of fear that they may be next. Some people be quiet and don't say anything because they have seen it on the wall, heard it. And so I ask you, do you know someone who's been laid off or afraid of what may come? Are you listening right now? Have you been laid off even before this in 2025? Are you listening now and you've been laid off 2024, 6 months ago, a year ago? You're still trying to get back on your feet? I'm just interested and curious to know, who do you know? Have you seen it? Has it hit home to you? Like I say, protect yourself. Like, stash some money now. Stay vigilant. And all the financial experts say 3 to 6 month emergency fund. What's 3 to 6 months to you? How much money you spend in a month? Multiply by 3, multiply by 6, depending on your family size. Explore a side job or alternate stream of income. As I mentioned earlier, owning is not ideal for anyone. What are some of the ramifications of this? Your credit cards may end up being used more because people have been left unprepared, don't have the cash on hand right now. Going to see a credit card increase. Some people may max out their credit cards. Stay safe and stay healthy because we got a measles outbreak. We've got bird flu. The price of eggs is going up. Went to Whole Foods the other day and the shelves were empty. USAID or is it FDA, one or the other, they had to scrambling to rehire people who were laid off. Experts within that certain field of bird flu to more understand its nuances before it spreads. It's not spreading like how the measles is spreading right now, but still, protect yourself. I know some people out here that are unvaccinated. Maybe you really take a stance on that, right? Just to protect you or to protect your child at the very least. And so there's a health issue, there's an economical issue, there's political issues going on right now. There's a lot of backlash. Could you say there's a transportation issue right now with all of the aviation things that have occurred? I might do a 10-minute episode on that. I don't know about all the little aviation disasters and things that have happened this year. 2025. I think I've been saying it in small circles. I think I may have said it on the last episode or the first episode. I don't know. But 2025 is a very difficult year. And you're adding onto that difficulty, of course, for the ongoing wars, the political discourse, and the mass layoffs. Talk about all the homeless people in D.C., Skid Row, L.A., Kensington Avenue, Philadelphia, Chicago, all over. What's going to happen now? Are we going to see foreclosures rates spike? We're going to see credit card limits increase. The American credit card total debt is over $1 trillion as it is. And what's the outcome of this? Again, will the deficit of the government, will that lower because of all of this chaos? I don't know. And there's biblical scholars that could weigh in and say, North Carolina had floods last year. LA had wildfires this year. We got global warming occurring. We've got this sort of civil unrest. We know in the book there was flashes and floods, and there was famine and X, Y, and Z. These people kicking people where they're down, the people who are unjust or evil people. It's such a sensitive time for so many people. Will karma come for those people that are being evil? what are we going to do? When are we going to wake up and start to realize that, for one, sure, economic blackout, if you participated in that yesterday, cool. But, some people may have had their own little personal economic or financial blackouts as well already. It's time to definitely replenish the stores because we don't know what's going to happen. It's a brand new month. So we're only 2 months in. You see all the calamity and chaos that has happened already. Protect yourselves, protect your home, protect your families, protect your loved ones. Because it's chaotic out here. And again, this episode is layoffs and talking about the current news and reacting to the TikToks. And sure, it's taken away from how do you save for IRA? How do you save for retirement? How do you pay off debt? Could you coach me? I'm thinking about like trying to coach somebody or be someone's accountability partner in the future. It's the current and present times that we're in. You have to kind of like talk about these things. And again, this is I don't mind talking about it, but at the same time, I still want to talk about the principles and being able to do this, do that, stay out of debt, build an emergency fund, learn about investing, start investing, do this, do that, right? And be careful when you buy a house. Be careful. Got a car, cool. Make sure you got fussed. Food, utility, shelter, transportation. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing that. Learn to say no. That was actually the episode I was going to do. The word no. And that's definitely going to be down the line. The difference between no, I won't, I can't, whatever. So I definitely got some ideas down the pike, and I just wanted to get this out the way. This is podcast episode 61, playoffs, round 2. If you stuck around this long, thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you to everyone that continues to support. And I try not to say I'm like a voice of the voiceless or something, but this is an outlet. And this particular episode is an outlet for me to be able to react and tell you, the listener, that you're going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. But also prop up people and support people. Don't kick them when they're down. Try to stay away from all the noise. I know it's so hard to do so, but try to stay away from all the noise and just hold tight. Stay strong. Strong arm steady. Shout out to that group. Wasn't that exhibit? Strong arm steady. Had a little group, but yeah. All right, y'all. That's it. I want to think about the next episode I'm gonna do. That's all I got for this one. Y'all definitely catch me whenever y'all catch me. Again, I support y'all a lot. So thank you for listening to the podcast, episode 61, playoffs, round 2. Peace. Thank you for listening to the No Strings Podcast with Rel Simon.